Welcome back, everyone. Jesse here again. I'm walking you through Hoodie Tech, right, start to finish. A simple, basically error-free way of fruiting just about any mushroom at home or commercially, at least a top fruiting variety. Now, I know many of you are growing therapeutic mushrooms or culinary mushrooms and things like that, and you have problems with contamination, pin sets, more flushes. This may help you. So let's get on with it. In the video before this, I went through a lot of the basics, theory, a lot of, just background information. Went over what this is. This is a mushroom fruiting block. It's a king oyster. It's in this unicorn bag. But in this video, I'm going to make a mess, and I'm going to show you how we make these, right? Now again, this is going to work for just about any species you can name. First things first, everything I'm about to show you is not sterile. These are demos only, except for this king oyster block. This is very, very much real. So no, I'm not doing everything aseptically. I'm not doing everything in a clean room. I'm in our kitchen because it's low echo. That being said, here are unicorn bags. This is a 3-3 T as in Tom unicorn bag. It's meant to hold 5 to 7 pounds of mass. Now you can see this one is actually a little short because me, cut it back too bad when I was filling it up. So I'm missing a good chunk at the top. And then also there's a lot more in here than needs to be, and that's because we added a lot of grain to this bag. So don't worry about the distance between here and here right now. I'll get back to that. So this is a 3T unicorn bag. This is a much larger bag. This is known as an XL, as in Larry, S as in Sam, XLS bag. Now this is also a T filter, T as in Tom. Now the reason why we use T filters, unicorn bags and many other mushroom bag growers sell bags with various sized filter patches, right? So they usually range from 0.2 micron being the smallest, all the way up to 0.5 or 0.7 micron. Here's the rule of thumb. The larger the number, so 0.5 or 0.7, the more gas exchange is going to happen, right? And what does this mean? It means that the larger that number, 0.2 micron, 0.3 micron, 0.4 micron, 0.7 micron, etc., the more things can travel through this membrane right here, right? So we run T filters. T filters are 0.2 micron. And what this means is that there's very little gas exchange, but there still is, right? Air and other things will pass through this, right? Using larger filter patches, more things such as bacteria, other fungi, etc., depending on how clean or unclean your environment is, depending on the micron patch, the micron level, that could allow bacteria all the way through that filter patch, right? So we always use T filters, the smallest filter patch size, across our entire grow. And the other secondary reason is that mycelium itself grows really, really well in high CO2 environments, right? So less gas exchange is super beneficial to us in the colonization phase. Not beneficial in the fruiting phase, but we'll get to that. So that's the difference between filter patches. These bags, this is a 3T, this is an XLS. You can see one is enormous, one is not enormous. We always use 3Ts because we don't need a lot of material for this. This is a lot of material, and when you only put 5 pounds of mass in the bottom, as I'm about to show you, with about half of this bag of millet, then, So we don't really use these. But feel free to use them, right? You can do all the Hoodie Tech stuff that I'm about to show you with these. So this is the eponymous unicorn bag, right? This one's empty, it's clean, filter patch. Now, if you've grown mushrooms before, you're probably familiar with substrate or grain. Now, imagine if you would, this grain is completely shock white and colonized. And this substrate is not just sitting here on the table being talked on by me. But anyway, this substrate is our feedy blend. It's a animal and insect waste free. So it's made with vegan and vegetarian components and good for all sorts of therapeutic and other dung-loving species, e.g. nitrogen-loving species. This is if you're growing therapeutics and psychoactives and others at home, this is the type of substrate you're probably going to be used to. So as you can see, we've sterilized this, right? This went through our pressure cooker. This has been sterilized a minimum of 2.5 hours. It was cooked in our barrel, which means it was sterilized actually for 6 hours, which means it's inert. And so here we go. Let's make one of these bags. So substrate, that's your first component. Your next component is colonized grain spawn. Obviously, this bag is not colonized. It's a random demo from, Jesus, probably February, right? So it's a really old bag, so yeah, it's not colonized. So these are your two components: bag of substrate, bag of colonized grain, species of your choosing, right? So if you're at home, do this in your still air box or in front of your flow hood, if you've got one, or in a really clean room with low air movement. Either, all of those work. So I'm going to put gloves on mostly because this is just generally messy, not because I'm trying to be clean. But I also do want to demonstrate some good technique. So when you're at home and you're about to start doing this, when you get into your still air box or your flow hood, the first thing you're going to do with your components, this bag of substrate, this bag of grain, you're going to wipe it down, right? The reason why you're wiping it down is because during the cooking process and just life happening, there's a non-zero likelihood that you've got contaminants just hanging out on the outside of your bag, right? That's normal. Cool. Done. So, what are we going to do now? We've wiped down the bags in our still air box. Now, we're going to actually make the block. Pull up the top of the bag. Now, normally this would be sealed. I'd have to cut this off, but I'm cheating. Open it up. Now, if I was in front of a flow hood, it'd be facing kind of like this. Then, you take this and you break and shake it so that all that colonized grain is now loose and moving around in the bag like that. I've got a knife. Now, for this 5-pound bag of substrate, I'm only going to use half this 3-pound bag of grain, which is 1.5 pounds, which is roughly a 1-to-2 ratio, which is really kind of a sweet spot for most of us growers because we want speed and disease resistance. Little over half, but it's good enough for video work. Okay, so I have poured the grain in the substrate. Now you could probably think you could seal it, move on with your life, but you would be wrong. Here's the problem. If you don't get this grain, this colonized grain all over inside of the substrate, you just defeated the purpose of having a whole bunch of grain in here with a whole bunch of inoculation points, right? So in front of your flow hood or in your still air box, you're gonna go like this. See what I'm doing? I'm squeezing at the bottom of the bag. Why? Notice how that's forcing more and more of those kernels of grain down into the bottom of that substrate. Reason why is because if you get grain here at the bottom, you have a much lower risk of having the bottom not get colonized or going anaerobic because the upper part colonizes so solid it cuts oxygen off to the bottom. So you can see we've done a nice good mixed job here. And we're now ready, or almost ready to seal. Now, I get asked this a lot, do you squeeze the air out of the bag? The answer is yes. What I do is I do this, right? I just squeeze it down a little bit. I'm not trying to make it airtight. What I'm doing is I'm actually forcing it into a block formation, right? I'm also trying to get all that substrate touching all those little pieces of grain. Not airtight, but I am squeezing it out because it also colonizes faster because there's less oxygen inside of the environment, right? These guys will naturally expand the top of the bag as they colonize in many cases because they're exhaling CO2 faster than the oxygen can be exchanged, but the oxygen is still being exchanged. So, now this bag is going to be super duper handy. If you don't have an impact sealer like this at home, you can use other things. You can chip clip the top of the bag down to colonize it. You can also use paper clips. The entire point is just to close this up, let it colonize so you can fruit it later. Now, in my case, I'm going to seal it because I want to demonstrate some stuff later on. So, squeeze the air out of the bag, put it in my trusty impact sealer, stand up so I can get the angle. I'm only sealing that one once because it's not a production bag, but done. We have now made this. And in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, this will be fully colonized and ready to fruit. Now, ready to fruit? That's our next video.